Okay, so I got a 2014 Chevy Cruze here. In my cousin's car, so he works at Home Depot. And the other night he came out to start it to go home, and it wouldn't do nothing. He just make a click and then stop. And I told him it sounds like the starter, and I asked him I told him if we just bring it over to my house, I'll take the starter off and replace it since it's kind of down in, and he's not familiar with it. So anyway, I took the starter off and checked it out, and I'll show you here what it does. But yeah, it was definitely the starter that was bad. So the solenoid is actually still good, but the new starter came with the solenoid and everything from Amazon. It's the exact same thing I took out. So yeah, I got that hooked on to where the power cord goes, and then there's the one goes from there to there. When you hit this middle bolt, the ignition switch, when you hit the ignition, that connects the power from these two bolts. So oops, I better hook it up with my battery first. There. Okay, so if I'm gonna put my screwdriver on that bolt and then lean it over against that, and then that's going to engage, but it won't turn. So as you can see right there, like, yeah. And sometimes it don't even do that right there. So yeah, it does that, but it's supposed to turn also when I do that, and it don't. So yeah. So I got a new starter off Amazon, and thanks to their Amazon Prime, I had it 2 days later. And I'm having problems keeping my phone focused. Anyway, so, like, here's approaching it from the front of the car. So, there's the engine, and then the starter's down below here. And if I go like, let's see, where's this little hole? Right here. If I zoom it up, you can kind of see starter down in that whole part of it, or over here. So, okay, so right there is the one bolt that you take out from the top. So I went in from the bottom to get the bottom. You can do it from the top, but it's a pain in the ass. So I could stick my one arm, my right arm, I could stick right down through there to turn the bolt loose, and the other arm I put through over here on this edge of the car. I went around and underneath over there to hold the starter. That was after I went underneath and took the bottom bolt and disconnected the wires from it, from the solenoid. So yeah, so you kind of, let's see here. I'll bring my phone around and down into the bottom by the starter. So yeah, right here you can see the starter. That's the starter. Here's the solenoid. Yeah, here's the solenoid. Okay, and let's see. So right down here is the lower bolt for the starter, and you got to take the nut off, and then right here is the ground wire that's on. So you got to take the nut off, then this ground wire, then there's another nut that's attached to the bolt. You take that nut out, and the bolt comes with it that fastens the starter in. And then the other bolt is like up top here, as I said. Let's see if I can. Yeah, it's. Where's my? Kind of can't see it from there, but anyway, yeah. So there, she's down below there. If it wasn't for this manifold thing, you could get to it real easy. And if you were really hard up, you could just take that off instead of fighting. I mean, you could easily enough get it from the top, but I just went underneath. It really wouldn't be that hard to get it from the top, but I had access to get it underneath because of the hole here that the car's on. Used to be an Amish that owned this, and in fact it does now, and that's who I rent it from. Let me try it. I'm gonna pause this just a second, try to clean my lens. Maybe that'll help a little bit. Okay. So anyway, and there's a line shaft that comes. It starts back there by the door. Their engine used to be back there, and it runs all the way over through front. And as you can see, there's wood. There's a groove in the concrete with wood in it. Okay, this dumb thing's pissing me off that it don't want to focus. There we go. try this again. So yeah, from the back of the door up here, and you can see the wood planks that lay in on the edge. So yeah, the car literally just straddled one wheel on each edge there, and it worked just perfect. And the hole's about 5 foot deep, dark and creepy, but it worked awful nice. So I'm gonna come down here in the hole and show you from the bottom side now what I did. Oh boy. Okay. So I got me a light set up in the edge there, shining up there. So yeah, if I come over here, right there, you can see the solenoid and the starter. Let me move it a little and you can see the ground wire and the nuts and the stuff on there. So yeah, from the bottom you cannot see the top bolt now. So okay, so right here on the solenoid, right here is the ignition wire on the small bolt. That take that nut loose, take the ignition wire off, and then right up, right there is another nut that you take loose. And as you see, there's a metal piece that goes into this thick power cord here. So you take this nut off and take this thing off, and that's literally it. Just this little ignition wire, and that power wire. Take the nut off and that off. And then it's just that, I can see it, the bolt right there. Back this up a little, if I can. There. And then, yeah, and then that nut right there with the ground wire on it. Right here. That's the ground wire. Take this nut, then the ground wire off, and then there's another nut that's fastened with the bolt, and the bolt and the nut come all off, and then the starter, that's the bottom, and then there's a top bolt on the starter. So there's just those two bolts to take the starter off, but then there's the power wire and the ignition wire. So anyway, let me show you kind of from the bottom. So here you're kind of looking from the bottom of the car, and if you come over through here in the holes, you can see right up there and see the starter. The black thing right in there. So yeah, like, and here's the exhaust. Here's the other part of frame thing. So there's a nice little hole where you can reach through there. You can reach through over here to get in there. Like there's the oil pan. So yeah, you can get right up in there with your hand and a wrench to loosen those bolts on the starter and the solenoid without a problem. And so anyway, yeah, let me get back out of here. So yeah, it's pretty simple. I mean, it's just that main power wire that goes to the solenoid, and then the other ignition wire. So yeah, let me take these clamps back off. And yeah, so yeah, like this starter's up in like that when it's in the car. So like this bolt right there's the one that you get from the top, or that I did. And these, like that one and all these, you could get those from the top too. But I thought, since I had the hole, it'd be easier to just pull the car inside here and do it. And so yeah. But yeah, it's just like, here's where the power cord wire goes to, and here's the ignition. And this one right here, you don't have to do nothing with this. This is just where, I mean, when you hit the ignition, when the ignition turns on, this thing connects these two right here, and that sends a part of the motor. So yeah, this one's just to take the power from here into the motor there. This little rubber thing there where that cable goes into the motor. So yeah, the motor is apparently just burned out, and I took it apart actually before I ordered the starter, and it smelled. You could smell it was burned out. So anyway, yeah, it was pretty simple. I mean, it looks complicated, and it is not the easiest thing in the world. It's a little complicated maybe, but it's, once you actually get at it to do it, it's pretty simple. So yeah, that's about it. And another thing, you want to make sure that you disconnect the battery. I disconnected the two cables from the battery right there. this car has a 10mm bolt there and there to loosen and then pull these two off, because you don't want to be accidentally bumping wires, like maybe the positive wire against the ground or against the frame of the car, somewhere where we're ground, or you're going to be having some problems there. I mean, you're going to have some sparks and stuff flying and maybe blow something up. So yeah, you definitely want to disconnect those. And I had them disconnected. I just connected them back up because I got everything it's back together. And I tried to start the car. She popped right off. So yeah, I guess that's it. How to replace the starter in there. And I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below, and I'll try to answer you back right away or as soon as I can. And so, alright, well, that is it for this video. Thanks for watching, and you have a blessed day.